Next up in the losers bracket, we got another match with Blinchick. Of course, since he moved on from the last round, he is versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is an Aeon versus Cybern matchup in the Fields of Thunder. Now, I have played on this a couple of times, not too terribly much. There's a pretty substantial amount of reclaim on this map, but most of it is not in your base. Therefore, map control is of utmost importance. On the bottom right-hand side, the aforementioned Obi-Wan Kenobi in the red colors, sporting the Cybern faction. He is going first land, P-Gen, 3 mass extractors, and then moving to the Hydro. Now, that extra power generator is an important thing indeed, because the Hydro is just a little too far away to push immediately. You will end up either stalling or not being optimal in your build order if you go for the Hydro immediately after the mass extractors. It just doesn't go well for you. There's better ways to do it. In fact, there are some players that with a Hydro this far away would go with a standard build order and not even incorporate the Hydro. That looks like what Blinchick might actually be doing, but we do see extra power generators going down around the mass extractors. Now that could be for a bit of adjacency bonus, both for land factories that are going to be built later, and also for early T2 mass extractors, because with this amount of reclaim, you're going to be getting some of those. Mech Marines, not Mech Marines, that is going to be a Flare and a Hunter meeting in battle as they cross the lines. That was an equal idea from both players with absolutely equal execution. The Flare is going to get in around to the back edge. This is, of course, taking for granted that the ACU is not standing next to the Hydro. You might be able to kill off the engineers that are building that power plant. Of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi will be able to deny that, but it might still turn out to be an annoyance. On the other side, this plan is going to be executed perfectly, although there is a spirit. That is a little bit of an issue, seeing as when you know the threat is there, you're not going to blindly send an engineer into it. There is an Aurora that'll be able to land a hit as that Hunter comes to a halt, and that is all she wrote for the early game aggression. Now, there's not many mass extractors in your base on this map. There are 6 to be exact, and one of those is not even very easy to claim. Most of the mass extractors lie in the middle of the map, as well as most of the reclaim. So you're going to end up with a couple of T2 mexes in your core base, and you're going to end up with a pile, an absolute buttload of production in the form of T1 land factories. The last time I played this, I think I ended up with somewhere in the vicinity of 9 to 10, even in the earliest portion of the game, because as soon as you get engineers out here to get this lovely, lovely reclaim, 38 mass per rock and a whole hell of a lot of rocks, you are able to run a massive amount of land factories. Once you get that T1 production online, you should be able to quickly gain the upper hand against your opponent, unless of course that opponent is Blinchick, and Blinchick also knows what to do on this map. We do have an air factory online that is going first Bomber. Factory has gone first Jester from Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is an interesting matchup indeed. That Jester will be able to pick off a couple of tasty targets before an interceptor comes into play out of this factory, and by the time it does, more than likely Obi-Wan Kenobi will be able to field his own interceptor. The Jester, of course, sporting 525 HP, is quite survivable. The interceptors will have a hard time knocking it down. The Jester is going to go after the build power, might just make it in time. Oh! 90% built on that anti-air. The mobile anti-air will come into play, and of course the build power is a crushing loss in and of itself. That Jester now moving out to other targets. Blinchick is going to struggle with that. That was a total of what, 5 engineers already that have been killed off, and he's now braving the onslaught once more to finish off the engineers in the base. He can kill that off, now move to the north. It'll live, it's gonna be close, 30 HP, and no! Just barely missing out on the other engineer as Red now swoops in with interceptors. Of course, air control will now belong to Blinchick thanks to the mobile anti-air that has been built, but that was a hell of an early game push by Obi-Wan Kenobi as it shows in the score. He is now 60 power ahead. He's mass behind. I'm not sure exactly how that is the case, seeing as he has more mass extractors. Oh, no, he doesn't, because Blinchik built a mass extractor on the front. That is what is tipping that in his favor. So we got 17 to 19 mass income. We take a look at the reclaim. We've got 1,000 for Obi-Wan Kenobi and 1,700 for Blinchik. So Blinchik is actually ahead still in all of those factors, but another Jester has come online to take out the engineer on the northern edge. I think the Jester was a bad idea. It is quite a funny tool, and it is going to definitely be a pain in the side of Blinchik, killing off that engineer on the far outside edge, which will require a couple minutes of walking and building to recuperate from. But it is going to mean that air is lost once again. Also, that air factory is now queuing interceptors into the opposing base directly over the top of the mobile anti-air. So that is not exactly what you want to have taking place at this point in the game. We've got 3 Mantis up versus 2 Auroras. Those will be able to eliminate the outside mass extractors, furthering Blinchik's problems on this right side edge, as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Blinchik casually exchange fire off their patrol orders in the middle. That Spirit is slowly plinking away at the engineer there, 1 damage at a time. But now, there is a Rhino on the field. Oh, good gracious alive. Obi-Wan Kenobi has invested into a T2HQ fully supported by Reclaim, and is now rolling Rhinos into the field. Something that he might have underestimated is the fact that Equilibrium no longer requires a power storage to overcharge. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the damage output is from 4,000 power in storage, but I'm sure that it's enough to kill a Rhino, or at least maim it quite badly. So those Rhinos, should they come into contact with an enemy ACU, might be in for a bad time. But it does look like they are going to flank to the left. Blinchik moving to the right still, even though those are now on radar. And Rhinos, let me tell you, fare much better against Auroras than Mantis do. Although, going up against Auroras like this, it might not have been a bad idea to build Wagners. And Wagners, they're fast, and they don't lack DPS. They actually have superior DPS per mass than Rhinos do. Let's see, Rowie pinging, the damage increases in steps of 1,000 up to 15,000 per shot of energy drained per 1,000 damage, 2,000 up to 30,000 per shot. Okay, so 4,000 in storage would do 2,000 in overcharge damage, which is enough to kill a Rhino in one blast. But that's taking for granted that your storage is completely full, which, as we know, is sometimes not the case with players who are using their eco to the maximum extent. Not to mention the fact that if you overcharge at that point, when you're trying to drop something very, very quickly, then you're going to be power stalled and not really come out ahead on anything. So it does present its own set of problems. All right. You know, I'm actually not sure that I should be venturing out to explain the interactions between the units, because with equilibrium balance, it might have actually changed some of these things. But I think it would still be safe to say that Wagners are faster than Rhinos, and I am pretty sure that Wagners have only slightly shorter range. 23 range versus 23, so the same range. If, taking for granted, we can trust these metrics. So yeah, versus Auroras, I think I would actually be building Wagners. Odd though that may be. Okay, looking at how this map is spread out, Obi-Wan Kenobi is slightly behind, 4 mass behind in permanent income, but at 4,000 reclaim is also significantly behind the 8,000 reclaim that Blinchik has at his disposal. That is double the reclaim income and a fair bit extra on static income in favor of the purple faction. On the other side, we do have a mobile shield out of a newly built T2 factory. Of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi will hold the upper hand for a limited time to come. due to the fact that he has all of the rhinos on the front line already. But we'll have to wait and see how he is able to exploit that advantage, because right now it's looking a little static. Obi-Wan is going to force Blinchick out of the center though, claiming all that reclaim for himself, except for the fact that there is already an engineer sucking those rocks up right there. He is going to get a little bit more aggressive though. Blinchick, no upgrades on that ACU either. And let's see, what is our total factory count? We've got 4 and 8 plus 1 for the HQ, and on the other side we have got 2 land factories and 1 HQ. Not exactly the greatest position to be in, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are going to be severely lacking in unit production shortly. Actually 9, because I didn't count the outside land factory there. 9 to 3. 10 to 3, counting the HQ. Good lord, that's bad news. Okay, Blinchick is about to have a little bit of an issue, because even taking for granted that he is able to overcharge without having the energy storage built, that's a lot of T2 tanks on the front line. Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to eliminate this extra build power quite handily, or perhaps maybe fall back. The ACU is to the rear on the right side of the base. Rhinos are now going to run to the left edge. So this may turn out to be a run-by going after the production, but he needs to put a foot down on the gas. He is being very, very indecisive. The gun upgrade has been completed on that ACU. That is something that I missed just a little bit earlier. That's going to put him in an excellent position to spar off against these Auroras. However, he has suffered an air loss in anticipation of these Jesters coming to the front. Is there a mobile flak? I don't think there is. Blinchick might be in for a rude awakening here. T1 anti-air hammering away at those Jesters as they shred the HP on that commander. Multiple mobile shields coming into play though, as T1 anti-air goes down all over the place with the mobile shield and the air win just there. That is going to be the end of those Jester ambitions. Now imagine if Obi-Wan Kenobi had instead gone for more land units. If he had had that many Jesters worth of mass in Rhinos, he would have been able to easily kill that ACU with no harm to his own forces, or at least barely any. Oh, that is nasty. We have an Aurora moving around the outside edge to plink away at that radar and then hopefully remove those 2 T1 mass extractors from existence. Obi-Wan Kenobi dropped down to 2,000 HP. He was down to about 1,500 when I looked at him earlier, but thank goodness for heavy cyber and regen, 27 per tick. But that is going to leave his forces looking a bit beleaguered. So you may be wondering why on earth this spam of mobile shields is in place. That would be because if you have Auroras online, they have the range to compete with most T2 units. They do have exceptionally long range for a T1 tank after all. The area that they lack in is HP. So by building mobile shields, you're basically compensating for the low HP of your units, bumping them up to some sort of tier 1.5-ish. If you have loads and loads of Auroras already built, it is well worth putting those mobile shields in the formation, buying that extra, what is it, 4,000 HP, 3,700 HP per shield at a paltry 75 power. Ooh. Okay, so Equilibrium does treat that a bit differently. But the point is, if you have the power to run them, and you have the T2 factory to build them, you can feed those mobile shields in with your forces of Auroras and come out quite well in an early T2 fight. Of course, your Obsidians and your other mainline combat units are going to be preferable once you get your production up, but it is an excellent temporary stopgap. I kind of hate the fact that there's still not any additional build power going down for Obi-Wan Kenobi. He has nearly run out of reclaim in his core base. He is quickly getting this on the outside edge, so you'll see that even though he has minus 43 on his regular income, he does have a substantial amount of power deficit. But the reclaim is saving him. I'm just a little concerned by some of his choices. Blinchik on the other side is at 3 T2 mass extractors, is got an HQ and 2 T2 support factories with multiple factories in reserve. Blinchik is on 27 stable income versus 29 for red, due to red having a huge amount of map control compared to the rest of this. I don't know. I just feel like the lack of build power, the lack of ability to exploit mass to the fullest extent is going to come back and bite Obi-Wan very, very hard indeed. Alright, looking at this front edge here. Oblivion turrets are going down, and it's going to hamper the efforts of Obi-Wan to get into the base. That is, let's see, a pair there, a total of 6 Oblivion turrets, quite a hefty amount of DPS. Blinchik getting a bit of reclaim in hand and upgrading 2 T2 mass extractors at once as quickly as possible at a 91 mass stall, actually 100 something mass stall, but of course that reclaim is blipping it up occasionally to an acceptable amount. One other thing that concerns me about Blinchik's side is the severe lack of TMD. Of course, Cybran with T2 is able to quite easily slip tac missiles in through the base defenses and kill off those oh so valuable T2 mass extractors that just got upgraded. But can all be stopped by a single TMD. Blinchik, I think, has a severe mass stall problem here. 177 in the hole. Look at this. We've got 4 T2 engineers building an Oblivion turret, the ACU building TMD, many engineers assisting a T2 power to come online, in addition to multiple T2 mass extractor upgrades taking place at the same time, while not having a substantial amount of reclaim. Blinchik did get a lot of this early, but now no longer has engineers on the outside edge. This one is struggling to build a factory, although I think Blinchik did just take a couple of steps to mitigate the mass stall. It is definitely still a severe problem. Obi-Wan Kenobi on the other side, Kenobi is at a minus 121 power, building another T2 power generator with mass in the bank, getting a hefty amount of reclaim on this edge, and doing quite well for himself. He's bumped up another tier, so I suppose we can forgive him for not having enough build power, seeing as he has gone for a T3 HQ and is now building freaking trebuchets because reasons and stuff and things. Those reasons being T2 point defense creep, or at least what he perceives to be T2 point defense creep. Although, the mobile missile launchers are doing a pretty effective job of stopping that already. So those trebuchets, when you're dealing with packed-in units like this, are going to be an excellent tool for AoE, dealing loads of damage to many units at once. Of course, you may have a paltry few DPS single target, but when you have 7 to 8 AoE, I forget what exactly the trebuchet has, you're looking at damaging at least 4 to 5 units at once, quadrupling your effective DPS. I would think, oh, a second trebuchet. Okay, you need combat units, dude. A third trebuchet, oh good lord. Yeah, so you're about to come up versus a range radar shield ACU, accompanied by a hefty amount of mobile shielding and obsidians, which are distinctly overpowered versus large single targets. I think your third trebuchet might have been a mistake. That is going to be 3 on the front. And what the fourth one might be, we will have to wait and see. He's falling away in the face of that commander, though. Was that a TAC missile? That was a TAC missile that eliminated that T2 mass extractor straight away. And he's also got another one in the chamber launching for the other T2 mass extractor, I'm sure. No, it is actually launching towards the main base. Why would you be doing that? Also, why are your trebuchets and your ACU out on the front line? Good God, man. What is your plan here? He is now building loyalists, so at least he's getting some good units up. The trebuchets are going to survive, moving back to a safer attack location, and those hammering blows will continue to rain down on Blinchik's forces. This is a very, very weird game. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is not going to be safe there. I know that he does have stealth, but with the radar upgrade on that ACU, you will also notice that the vision radius has grown quite large on the commander, able to see very far indeed, and the Omni range covers dang near half the map on a 5-kilometer engagement area. So this is not going to favor Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's got T1 bombers coming in, I think possibly targeted at some of those TMD. It is in fact targeted at the TMD, but the mobile shielding is going to take the brunt of the blow, and that is not going to be an effective strike. The mobile artillery, though, is doing quite a fantastic job of mopping up the center. Perhaps that was not such a bad idea as I thought it was. T1 bombers are moving over to the left-hand edge, although, yeah, it looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi actually has a superior number of interceptors. He is not choosing to engage, which I suppose is a smart thing, because you don't want to get into an engagement over the enemy anti-air, especially when there may well be a flak in that position. But, yeah. Alright, Loyalists are moving over to the left side, picking up a couple of raiding units on that edge. It looks like Blinchik is just wandering around in circles in the middle to avoid taking T3 artillery fire. We now have a total of 7 Loyalists on the field. That is going to be more than enough to clean sweep the outside edge of the map. This is looking more and more like a victory for Obi-Wan Kenobi, taking for granted that he doesn't make a critical error. And he has come very close indeed to making a critical error on a couple of different occasions. But I'm not sure whether he will slip up badly enough to throw a win that is this secure. Blinchik is at 44, 35 mass income with the loss of those forward mass extractors, 52 on hand for Obi-Wan Kenobi, although he has pretty much exhausted his available reclaim numbers, so that is going to lend itself towards a pretty hefty mass stall moving into the future, unless of course he's able to discover some newly minted source of reclaim, such as a bunch of T1 units on the other side of the map. Now, Loyalists are moving up, but I think that is unwise considering the fact that they are not particularly hardy versus T2 point defense fire, and also there is an ACU right there. I think this is also a case study in point defense placement, because there is a bit of rough terrain right there. That is actually the lip of a crater preventing hits on these units. This is not as flat of a map as it initially seems to be, though it would appear that some of that terrain height madness is caused by terraforming from the placing of these turrets and other various and sundry buildings. Oh boy. Blinchik is now in overcharge range of the trebuchets. Down they go. You remember what I said about that potential for a critical error? The loss of the trebuchets is not a good thing. Blinchik lost almost no units on that offensive. Killed off 2 trebuchets and a handful of other units, and oh my. T1 bombers on the back end might have been more effective had there been T1 power generators there, but alas, those have already been reclaimed and replaced with T2 P-Gens. Blinchik is still holding on by a hair, mind you, but holding on nonetheless. And now, one of those critical errors that I was talking about before. Jesters flying directly over flak. T2 power generator destroyed by a TAC missile strike just before that TMD was completed. We're about to find out whether that TAC missile skirts the range of the TMD in order to kill this other power generator. No, never mind. That was a trebuchet shot, not a TML. There's the TML heading for the... Nope, hold on. Yep, there it is. All right. That one is heading for, it looks like the HQ, and oh! I missed it! Freaking A! That was a kill from Blinchik, sneaking Harbingers up. He misclicked his ACU too far forward and immersed himself into the units of Blinchik, handing that win over. Good Lord. So, harking back to that statement about not making a critical error. Oh, good lord. Dude, that was miserable. Okay, so post-game analyses. Obi-Wan Kenobi had that one for pretty much the whole game, and somehow still managed to throw it. You didn't make early combat units from your T3 factory. You should have made bricks, not loyalists. Loyalists are for rapid expansion and raiding on a map. They are not fantastic as mainline front units. If you build like a couple of loyalists to a couple of bricks, maybe 3 to 2, they're very useful because you can use a stun effect, but you have to have bricks. The T3 artillery was an interesting idea, but in the end, it was not sufficient and you let it die on the front lines. Not good. You threw away your jesters against flak, not to mention the fact that you're still building jesters at 23 minutes into this game. Once you build like 5 jesters, you should go ahead and go for a T2 air factory, because the HP boost on the T2 jesters, how survivable they are, is incredible versus jesters. Renegades will win out every single time. So I thought it was kind of odd that you built a dozen to begin with, but then the second dozen is way over the top. And then, yeah, oh my goodness. This is like one of my games. I win it, and then I throw it. This was just a 1700 rank throw instead of an 1100 rank throw. Well played by Blinchick, biding his time even though everything looked dire. He was losing on several different fronts. He stuck with it, took advantage of that misclick, and murdered the crap out of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well played, well played. That is gonna wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.